Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This is your performance management tutor, Sir Uzair Awan, and this video is a continuation of CVP, cost volume profit analysis. So we have so far recorded 4 videos. This is the 5th one in which we'll be discussing the contribution chart. And if anyone of you have not watched the previous 4 videos, I would recommend you to go and watch those 4 videos because they are going to further strengthen your concept, right? And those are not very long videos, so you can just watch them and come back to this video. So in this video we'll be starting with the contribution chart, and like I said in my previous video where I was explaining the break-even chart, that contribution chart is almost the same, right? And we'll be using the same data that we have used in the previous question. I mean the previous area of break-even chart. I'm going to use the same question and I'm going to teach you how to draw the contribution chart. Okay, so first of all we'll be drawing our y-axis, and the y-axis would have the revenue. Okay, everything is same like we learned in the break-even chart, remember that. Okay, so the x-axis, I mean the y-axis would have the revenue, the x-axis would have the units. Okay, exactly the same like we did in the break-even chart. Okay, and what did we learn? That the break-even chart has 3 lines: total revenue, fixed cost, and total cost, right? That was something we discussed in our previous lecture, right? Now remember that when it comes to the contribution chart, it has the same 2 lines. The first line being the total revenue line and the second one being the total cost line. What it does not have is a fixed cost line. Okay, so remember that contribution is before fixed cost, so that's why it does not have a fixed cost line. What it does have is a separate line of variable cost, right? So in the break-even chart, you have a line of fixed cost, you have a total revenue line, you have a total cost line. But in a contribution chart, you have a total revenue line, a total cost line, and instead of a fixed cost line, you have a variable cost line. Okay, so I hope the difference is clear. That's the only difference. That's it. Everything is same. Now I'm going to use the same data that we used in our previous video for the break-even chart, right? Same data. So you know that our budgeted sales is 10,000, and I told you guys in the previous video that you always see the budgeted sales which are 10,000, and that is always regarded as your maximum units, 10,000. Okay, and then this is 0 units. So between 0 to 10,000 you can allocate the scale in whatever way you like, right? This is the same thing I told you in the previous lecture as well. So 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. I would allocate it like this. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, your choice. Okay, that does not matter. And what's the maximum revenue? So in the last lecture I told you, take your budgeted sales 10,000 and multiply it with the selling price, which is 20. So that came out to be 200,000. Okay, so my maximum revenue is $200,000. Okay, and this is $0 revenue. So between 0 to 200,000 you can allocate the scale in whatever way you like. So I'm going to allocate in the same way like I did in the previous lecture. So 400, right? Then I took 800, right? Then 120, 160, right? And then our maximum revenue of 200,000. Okay, so this is how I did in the previous lecture, and this is how I'm going to continue doing it over here. So 40, 80, 120, 160, and 200. Got it? Now what we have to do, we have to make 3 lines. The first line is of total revenue. Okay, so total revenue line is going to be the same way, right? Remember how I told you that the first point is going to be at the origin, which is 0, 0. Why? Because when you sell 0 units you earn 0 revenue, right? When you sell 0 unit you earn 0 revenue. So a point at 0, 0, right? And the second point is at the maximum unit. So maximum units are 10,000 and we are earning a revenue of 200,000, right? Which is this line over here. So that is my second point, and then you just connect these 2 points, right? So you see, in the same way like we learned in the break-even chart, right? So this is my total revenue. Now after that we have the total cost. So total cost, you guys remember, just like in the break-even, it's going to be same: material, variable overhead, and labor cost, right? So total means variable plus fixed, and fixed is how much? 30,000. So 150 plus 150 plus 30, that's 180. So at 1000 units, sorry, at 10,000 units, you have a sale of 180, right? So 180 is going to be somewhere over here. You can just place over here. Obviously, it's a rough graph, right? You will make a proper graph, but this is just a rough graph that I'm drawing over here, right? So this is my point, and obviously at 0 units you will have 0 cost, right? But what do you remember? Do you remember from the last lecture? I told you that the total cost always starts from the top. It never starts from the origin. And what did we learn? That from where? Okay, it starts from the top, but from where? From the fixed cost. That wherever is your fixed cost line, just start from the top of that, right? But the question is that, okay, but in this, you already told us that we will not be drawing the fixed cost line, right? Then what? So it's okay. You know that you are not going to be drawing the fixed cost line, but don't you know what is the fixed cost? You know that it's 30,000, right? Where would 30,000 be? Somewhere over here. So that means you will start the line from here, right? So yes, you won't not draw the fixed overhead line, but you know what the fixed cost is, right? So that will give you an idea where to start your total cost line from, right? So nothing difficult. So this is my total cost line, okay? And now the new line, which was not in the break even, but would be there in the contribution. The only difference, and that is the variable cost line. Now how would you draw the variable cost line? Very simple. Just take all your variable costs, 8, 4 and 3. We already calculated that 8, 4 and 3 were 15. Times it by your 10,000 units, which gives you a total variable cost of 150,000. So 150,000 would be somewhere over here. At 10,000 units, it's 150,000, right? So let me just place it out over here. It's somewhere over here. And at 0 units, you will have 0 variable cost. So you'll always start from the origin, okay? Total variable cost also starts from the origin, just like the total revenue line, okay? Remember that. So total variable cost line. Okay, so now we have all our 3 lines, and now just some additional information that you guys need to remember. Just like we learned in the break-even chart, that the point where your total revenue and total cost intersect, that is your break-even point, right? Similarly over here, with a point where your total revenue and total cost intersect, this is going to be your break-even point, right? So you just extend this line on the x-axis downward and you see what units are there, and those are going to be your break-even units, okay? And then, like we discussed previously, that the area above the break-even, this is your profit, right? This is your profit, and this area over here is your loss. Profit, loss, okay? And what else did we look at? Look over here. We discussed that the area above the break-even point would be profit. The one that is below break-even would be loss, right? Then we discussed that the area that comes between the break-even point and the budgeted units would be your margin of safety. So same would be over here. Break-even point and your budgeted units 10,000. All this area that comes in between is your MOS, your margin of safety, okay? And lastly, what we discussed over here was that all the area that comes between total cost and fixed cost is your variable cost, right? But over here, obviously, it's not fixed cost, it's variable cost. So total variable cost and total cost, total variable cost and total cost. What do you think? I think you guys already know the answer. The area between the total cost and the total variable cost, which is this area, right? This is going to be your fixed cost. Obviously, because if you subtract total cost with your variable cost, you will have your fixed cost, right? So at the top over here, you can see the area between total cost and fixed cost was variable cost, and over here, the area between total cost and total variable cost is your fixed cost, okay? So this is contribution chart, and that is it for today's video. We'll continue with the last chart, which is the profit to volume chart, in our next video. Alright, till then, take care, and if these videos are helping you, please make sure to subscribe. That is the only way to support me. Subscribe the channel, like the video, and if you have any question, you can always ask me in the comment section. I will reply to you as soon as possible. Take care, have a great day. Goodbye.